Hello everyone, welcome. I'm here, Professor Suarez, looking to help you guys out with this final project so that way it doesn't overwhelm you guys, okay? So let's get started. The first thing I want to point out is probably one of the last tabs that you're going to see on your Excel sheet, and this is just a summary of everything that we're going to run through over here. So the first thing I want to point out is the percentage of income spent. Now, this chart tends to move as you adjust the numbers. Unfortunately, it doesn't move properly, so that's probably because I programmed it wrong. But it's supposed to kind of fill up as you spend more of the budget and go down as you spend less of the budget. But this actually right over here is pretty accurate. So pretty much the way you want to see it is you want to make more money than you're spending, right? By doing so, you're creating a portion of money, this chunk right here, which is different from the chunk over here. You want to have a chunk that you're allocating to, the way I say it is, work for you, right? Because a lot of people out here work for money, but only the rich have it that the money's working for them. Okay, and then right underneath, I have a brief summary of what it is that is going on in my life. Let me just read it to you. This is my projection for my average spending habits for the following 12 months based on the amount I put in. I'm spending only 79% of my monthly income. This leaves approximately $245 for me to do whatever I want with. Based on chapter 8, 11, and 13, I have decided to put that money towards my future. I understand that even though I am sacrificing now, small changes I make today can help me build my future, right? And you know, this is very true. This is kind of me crystallizing not just what I learned in chapter 8, 11, and 13, but what I've learned throughout the whole year. Okay, if you look here, you're going to see that some of your major expenses are broken down. We're going to get into that a little bit when we go into expenses. And then this little chunk here is disposable income, which we're also going to talk about. And that actually leads into 3 sections here, which are very important, and how we make the money work for us. So let's get into it. I'm going to skip ahead into income, because that's the first one you see when you open the blank statement. Right, so the first chart, monthly income, I have it broken down for myself, hypothetical student, right, that I get $600 in tips, $400 in direct deposit, and $150 in tutoring. Let's say on average I actually only make 300 in tips, right? That's actually going to show up on my summary here, which is great. And it's going to reflect on a lot of the other charts as well. Here you'll see that it has a negative disposable income. That's just because Excel doesn't know how to post it as a negative, as a separate. Because that's the way the pie reflects. It's not accurate. But the key here is you want to set it up, like I said before, that your income is higher than your expenses, right? So I'm gonna leave it at 600 here. But if it happens that you know you're doing it and the income is more than the expenses, that's fine. It just means that we have to make changes to our expenses now, right? Which we'll get into. So I put, you know, tips here, direct deposit, tutoring. I want you to itemize where your revenue is coming from, where you're getting the money, and to be specific about it, and try to be as accurate as possible, because that's gonna benefit you in the long run. And then over here, what you're gonna do is you're gonna make a small blurb about your approach to making money, right? Over here, I have a small blurb. You know, I currently work a job that gives me tips. I also have direct deposit set up. This job is a great option for me. But I also look into my career. You know, I put that I'm studying communications, and I'm going to look up what a communication major actually makes. And you know, and here it says the major, as soon as you graduate, makes about $48,000, which, to be honest, nowadays is nothing. average cost of living is about 20,000, 30,000. So you only have 12,000 at the end of the day. If you don't have any debt, that's yours, right? And that's a bad situation to be in. It's not a horrible situation, but preferably you'd want to be on a higher end when you graduate, especially if you have that over $50,000 in debt, right? Then I look at the other major, economics, finance. You're making 57,000. You're making almost 20% more. So if that's something that's a deciding factor for you, it's worth considering, what your major is. Now, I'm not knocking communication majors down, because it's important to know how to speak. Or I'm not knocking liberal arts majors down, because sometimes you don't know exactly what you want to do. But moving closer towards what you want and what you value is very important early on, because then you don't waste your money. You don't spend money on courses and then realize after you have a bachelor's degree that maybe you wanted to study something else. You see what I'm saying? So looking into the career, looking into what it entails, looking into the possibility of making money, those are things that I want to see in your income approach. Because I personally feel that those are important things to consider whenever you're putting your money into something, or you're putting your time into something that should be benefiting your future. And the last piece, I want to see goals. I want to see things that you could accomplish today. If you want to get a second job, I want to see that as a goal. I'm applying for another job to get a second form of cash flow. If you're looking for internships for your career, I want you to put that. I want you to put that. Spend 20 minutes a day going on Indeed.com to find an internship for a TV spot, or an assistant. Executive assistant, whatever it is that you're deciding to do, those are important things that you want to set as a goal. Okay. The next piece is the expense. So same way that the income is changeable. If I decide, okay, I'm gonna move out in the next month, and I put $800, you'll notice here that these items also adjust, as well as disposable income. So now the moment that you have a negative disposable income, that's leaves room for concern, because that means that you are spending more than you're earning, and you probably have to take out debt to pay for it, right? So if you look at the summary here, again, it's going to have that weird, funky negative percentage, and it's also going to show that the red, total projected expense, is higher than total projected income. So we want to try to lower that here. There's actually a space over here on your file that you're going to be using, which is blanked out, that allows you to put what you're actually spending. And the key here is to see what it is you want to spend on some of these items, right? And then go into a position where you could look at it and say, wow, I can actually move this and adjust it the way I want to. If that makes sense, right? So let's see here. Back to the expense. Let's say, for example, you finish paying off a phone, so it goes back to 50, and then I don't know. Let's say you are able to pay off one of the credit cards, so you could reduce it by $75 or $45. Let's see, so 105. That changes everything over here, and it increases your disposable income. And things happen. And these are plans that you could make and you could play with to make sure that it's actually the way you want it to be. Actually going to make it 100 so it reflects the first image, right? And then that I want to see in your expense approach. I want to see that you're making adjustments and you're making changes, so that way you have an increase in your disposable income and money that you could put to work for you. So for me, I put, I have $700 in credit card debt from my textbooks. That's fine. That's normal. That's real. That's real life. Don't feel ashamed. But have an approach and say, I want to allocate $150 a month or $100, and not have to feel like I'm living paycheck to paycheck. But I'm not going to use my credit cards, and I'm going to pay it off. That's something that you could talk about that could then become written out as a goal. Start paying off my credit cards. Not use my credit cards. Look, I have it right here. Reduce credit card debt. That's a goal I can have. Set aside money to move out. Reduce spending. Anything that you could do with your purchasing, right? That affects how you utilize your money. That reflects the values that you have and your principles. Those are things that I want to see and I want to know. Okay, and I want you to put that here. I want you to pick 3, the top ones, after writing this out and doing that. With this here, you don't have to do anything because that actually auto-populates, like I said before. So if I increase this to 100, that's going to increase the utilities by 100. And this is just to organize the summary here and kind of give you a breakdown of where every portion of your spending goes. So if you look here, 23% of my spending goes towards food, and then 32% goes to transportation. I look at that and I say to myself, man, I'm either a fat soul, or I'm being overcharged for food. And then if I look at my expenses, I'm like, oh wow, I spend $200 in fast food. If I could spend $100 in fast food and $100 in grocery, that'll increase my disposable income, right? So these are things that you will only realize when you kind of step back and review your finances. Now, last but not least is the most important part, disposable income. And as I was saying before, you don't want to work for your money. You want your money to work for you. So what we're going to do here is we're going to review how we break down the disposable income. So you could have it at 33% and 33%. This investment is going to adjust on its own, and it's going to break down exactly how much you're spending on each piece here. And what's interesting is this part here also changes as well. So if I decide to change it to 12%, it's going to tell me exactly how much I would earn. So you could play with these numbers, these two up here. This one you don't have to change much because it'll do it automatically. So you pick, let's say I put 0% in savings, right? That means that my total contributions and earnings would be this much here, right? And this is how much I would get here based on these returns here. So for this part, what you're looking to do is first determine how much you want to put towards each one. And how you'd figure that out is you would think to yourself, how much would I want to have set aside just for me to use whenever, or God forbid something happens, right? That's the first key. So if you want a higher amount, like let's say for right now, you want a higher amount in the savings that you could pull out whenever, you put 50% in. If you already have money set aside and you already have a savings, you put 10% away. And then put 57% in investment, right? I mean, rule of thumb based on chapter, I believe it was the chapter on savings and budgeting. They said having 6 months of income for a case of emergency is the rule of thumb. So if you don't have that, you're going to have a higher savings than investment. And if you do have that, you're going to have a higher investment than savings. And insurance, that's really based on how much it's going to cost you based on your research. And that you could always look up and determine. If you change these numbers here, unfortunately it doesn't change the percentage So I want you to focus on the percentage because that's principal. If you think about it, you get $100 and you say you're gonna put 10% in savings. That's $10. You say you get $200 in disposable income, but you're still gonna do 10%. That's $20. You get $1. That's 10 cents. No matter what, if you decide, hey, it's just a principle. I'm gonna just put away 10%. That's a discipline and that's a skill that you're gonna have, and that's gonna carry over whether you're making $100 in disposable income or $1 million in disposable income. Regardless of whatever the situation is, you're gonna maintain that and stay disciplined, and that's really the key to savings, which we established in one of the first discussion boards. Now, on this second part over here, then I want to bring your eye to the savings and investment vehicles. What you're gonna do is you're gonna pick either a saving or an investment option. Put the interest for each one, and you're gonna leave the compounding period for 12, right? Because APY means annual percentage yield. So what that means is that's the rate you get for that year, and that's what it calculates off of. So if any vehicle or any savings account or savings option, that's usually how they post the rate. So that's the rate you're gonna put. And what you'll see here, because all these generate based on what you put up here. What doesn't generate, and I'm gonna highlight it, is the initial balance deposit. So if you have a savings account that has $160 in it, you put that there. If it has $0 in it, then you're gonna put that there. If you have a retirement account that has no money in it, you're gonna put it there. If it has 1,000 in it or 100 in it, you're gonna put it there. But the idea is whatever you put, that's gonna be added to this amount here. It's not included because this is actually just the total annual contribution. But if you put the $100 in the initial balance, and then this is after what you contribute and earn through interest, then you would have $1,776.41. Now if you had $8,000 already able to be put up, then you have $9,676.41. Make sense? But what this is just so that way you know how much you'd be putting in up front, or how much you would need to put in up front, because some of these accounts have requirements as well. So when it comes to saving approach, this part here, I just want you to talk about the different options you research. You could include this one and this one as well, because even an IRA is considered a savings option. If you decide that you're not going to put any money towards your savings, I want you to put that. If you're going to put 100% of your money towards your savings, I want you to put that too. And then I want you to research three different banks, three different savings accounts or interest-bearing checking accounts too, because they do that. And I want you to put the rates over here. And any website that you get this from, I want you to put in the reference page, which is in the back. It's not included in here, but it is on your clean template that has nothing on it. Okay. The other piece is I want you to talk about your health insurance. I want you to talk about what your premiums are, what your deductible is, what your coverage, what your other costs may be associated with your insurance. I want you to talk about how helpful it is. Maybe give an example of when your insurance helped you. And if you don't understand the importance of insurance is a way to help reduce the cost of rising medical expenses. And medical expenses tend to rise as you get older, and it's not because not just because the technology is more advanced and the procedures get more complicated, but you also get sicker and it becomes your body deteriorates, so it becomes more expensive to do the procedures that keep you healthy and stable. And the way to reduce that cost is that people pay premiums towards a pool of funds that the insurance companies uses this pool of funds to pay out for your sickness or your emergencies. And the reason they could do that is because they use statistics and math to figure out what the risk is that you're going to get sick. And some of the variables could include health habits, eating habits, exercise habits, whether you smoke, whether you drink. All these things are factored in, and they've become so good at it that they're able to make a profit as far as how much claims they pay out and how much money they're able to collect from premiums. But how this impacts you is really what coverage do you have as far as insurance, and how much are you paying for that coverage, and if it's really to your benefit or to your detriment. Are you paying for something that you feel you'll never use, or even if you don't feel you'll never use, they have perhaps something like a high deductible where you have to pay $1,000 before they pay for even 50% of what they owe or 80% of what they owe. These are things that you need to figure out and consider, because you could potentially reduce your costs if you find that you're paying too much for insurance. And again, any references or any pages that you get this information from, I want you to post that at the last tab. And finally, investments. There are plenty of investment options that you have, even though you're a student, that you could take advantage of early on. I want you to talk about the different approaches. In the discussion board for the second to last week, they have a couple of links that you could look up and utilize to post something over here. So if you have any questions about that too, do some research. Investopedia.com is a great resource. You could Google it. Google different low-cost investment vehicles or investment platforms, and you'll be able to at least find 3. And I want you to put those 3 here: the cost that's associated with utilizing the accounts, and the minimum balance required to make the investment. And then from there, I want you to kind of come up with an investment approach that benefits you, that you feel comfortable doing. And from that approach, after all this, you'll see that there is ways to make money work for you. There is ways to get a return on investment. Here you see that it's 1 cent, 61 cents. Why not make it more for yourself? The last thing you really want to do is do this project just to get an A grade. I think that's the biggest waste of money and time, to take classes just to get an A. Because at the end of the day, it's just a grade, it's just a letter. It doesn't mean anything except that you were able to complete a bunch of assignments to the expectation of somebody who, frankly, isn't giving you a job, isn't paying you. I'm not paying you. I'm just evaluating your work. What you really should be doing is evaluating the quality of your education and determining, based on what you're learning, what am I going to do with it? How am I going to monetize the information that I'm getting now? And how am I going to make this work for me? And how am I going to make money? Because at the end of the day, it's what it's about. It's about creating value, not creating money, creating value. I want you guys to understand something. A lot of people, you'll hear a lot of people say, if only I could make more money, or if only I had a job that made X amount of dollars, right? And the reality is, money doesn't mean happiness. It doesn't mean success. What money does is it allows you to buy things and create opportunities for yourself that help you to achieve success, that help you to find happiness, that add value to your life. But money itself, the intrinsic value of money, it only becomes realized when you spend it. If you have money in your pocket, if you have gold, for example, which is very valuable, if you have a whole bunch of gold in your house, that's not going to do anything for you. It's only when you take that money and invest it, or develop a business, or sponsor somebody to do something, that's when it really has its value. And the key to utilizing money and financing and investment is learning where to put the money that is going to create more value for you and other people. I'll give you an example. I recently set up a scholarship for $1,300. It took me like one weekend. I took $500 and I was able to change that to $1,300. And how? I put it into a scholarship fund. I approached my partners and my network, and I said, listen, this is something I want to set up. Do you guys want to put up money? Because I put up money, they put up money. And then on top of that, my employer said, you know what? You put up this much money, we're going to match it. So my 500 now becomes valued at 1,300. Why? Because I was able to take the first step, and I wanted to see something get done, and I made it happen. So you take these same principles and you apply to your disposable income. Who knows? The sky's the limit. And it might not be that you put in a savings account. It might be that you set up your own business, or you set up a limited liability corporation or some project. But if it adds value to you, if it adds value to other people, why not do it? And don't wait till you graduate. Like, you could just go for it, because that's what's going to be what's adding value, and that's what's going to be what I call making your money work for you. Okay? I look forward to seeing how these projects turn out, and seeing how you guys spend your money and motivate yourselves to make the steps to improve your financial lives. If you have any questions, you guys can email me or shoot me a text, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. All right, good luck, guys, and stay blessed. This is Professor Suarez signing off. Take care.